the ghost light of Ko Rumdal. The night air in our stilted house was a physical thing, a weight on my chest. It was too thick to breathe properly, heavy with the humidity that rises from the Mekong and smelling of damp thatch, dying cook fires, and the distant, sweet decay of mangoes fallen from the trees. I lay on my woven mat, the bamboo floor cool against my skin, one hand resting on the swell of my belly. My baby, my first child, was restless tonight. I smiled, feeling a little flutter, a gentle turn. He was strong. My husband, Khmer, was already asleep beside me, his breathing a slow, steady rhythm that usually soothed me. But not tonight. A sharp, powerful kick from within jolted me, stealing my breath. It was a stark, living contrast to the sudden, dead silence that had just fallen over the village. The nightly chorus of the jungle, the chirping of geckos, the sawing of cicadas, the distant barking of a neighbor's dog had vanished. Not faded away, but cut off, as if a giant hand had smothered the world. The only sound left was Khmer's breathing and the frantic pounding of my own heart. I held my breath, listening. My ears strained against the unnatural quiet. Villages like Ko Rumdal are never truly silent. There is always life, always sound. This was a hollow, empty silence, the kind that precedes a predator's strike. Then came a new sound. It started from beneath the floorboards, from the dark, damp earth under our home. A soft, wet rustling. It was a foul, intimate sound, like heavy silk being dragged slowly, deliberately through thick mud. It wasn't the slither of a snake or the scurrying of a rat. This was heavier, more ponderous, and it was getting closer. My body went rigid. I wanted to wake Khmer to shake his shoulder and whisper my fear, but my limbs wouldn't obey. I was frozen, a prisoner of that terrible, sucking sound. Then came the smell. It snaked up through the gaps in the bamboo floor, thin tendrils of scent that curled into the air around me. It was coppery and metallic, the unmistakable smell of old, dried blood. It mixed with something else, something acrid and sour, like spoiled meat left too long in the sun. The sweet smell of the mangoes was gone, choked out by this invading stench. It filled my nose, my throat, and I had to clamp a hand over my mouth to keep from gagging, terrified that any sound I made would alert whatever was down there to my presence. The rustling stopped directly beneath me. I could feel a strange vibration through the floor, a low, almost inaudible hum. My baby kicked again, this time in a wild, panicked frenzy, as if it could sense the wrongness just inches below us. My eyes darted to a crack in the woven bamboo wall, a small split that offered a sliver of a view of the night outside. I had to know. I had to see. With trembling slowness, I shifted my head on the thin pillow, my neck muscles screaming in protest. I peered through the crack, my eye watering from the strain. At first, there was only darkness. The moon was a sliver, hidden behind a blanket of thick monsoon clouds. But then I saw it, drifting slowly past the wooden stilts that held our house above the ground. It wasn't a face, not a body, not an animal. It was a light, a bobbing, crimson light, glowing softly in the oppressive dark. It pulsed, a soft, rhythmic beat like a foul heart, and with every pulse the coppery stench grew stronger. It moved with a horrifying, liquid grace, and I knew with a certainty that chilled the marrow in my bones that this light was not searching. It knew I was here, and it was hungry. A hunger that felt ancient, profound, and utterly unnameable. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the image was burned onto the inside of my eyelids. That pulsing, blood-red glow. The silence of the night pressed in, and in that silence I heard my own mind screaming. The next morning, the sun rose with a kind of brutal cheerfulness, burning away the shadows and the fear. The jungle chorus returned, the village stirred back to life, and the memory of the night felt like a fever dream. Khmer woke, stretched, and kissed my forehead. "You were so still last night, Soria Aun," he said, his voice warm with sleep. "Did you finally get a good rest?" I couldn't bring myself to tell him. What would I say? That a hungry light had been under our house. He would say it was a dream, a fear born of my pregnancy. He was a good man, my Khmer, strong and practical. He worked the small plot of land our family had owned for generations. He believed in hard work, in the seasons, in the things he could see and touch. He left the world of spirits and omens to the old women and the monks. So I just smiled and nodded. But as I went about my morning chores, the fear lingered like a foul taste in my mouth. I went to the river to wash our clothes, and the water felt colder than usual. The women chattering by the bank fell silent as I approached, their eyes holding a strange, pitying look before they quickly looked away. Something was wrong. Later, as I was feeding our chickens, I noticed Yi-en, the oldest woman in the village, watching me from the doorway of her hut. Her face, a beautiful roadmap of wrinkles and worries, was grim. She beckoned to me with one crooked finger. My heart hammered against my ribs. Yi-en saw things others did not. She remembered stories that younger generations had started to forget, dismissing them as old superstitions. I walked over, my sandals scuffing in the dust, and offered her a respectful samfi, pressing my palms together. "Soria," she said, her voice a dry whisper like rustling leaves. "You must be careful. The nights are growing teeth." "Yi-en, what do you mean?" I asked, my own voice barely a whisper. She looked at my swollen belly, her dark eyes filled with a deep, ancient sorrow. "It is drawn to new life, to the blood of mothers and the breath of the unborn. It is an old hunger. It has woken again." She wouldn't say more. She simply pressed a small, tightly wrapped pouch of cloth into my hand. It smelled of dried herbs and camphor. "Keep this on you, always, and tell your husband, tell him to line the space beneath your home with thorns. Rattan, as much as he can find, do it before the sun sets." I walked back to my house, my mind reeling. Thorns, an old hunger, the blood of mothers. The pieces were clicking together into a picture I did not want to see. When Khmer came back from the fields, I told him what Yi-en had said. He sighed, wiping sweat from his brow. "Aun, that's just old village talk. Yi-en means well, but she frightens everyone with her stories of ghosts and curses. An animal was probably under the house last night. A civet, maybe." "It wasn't an animal, Bong," I insisted, my voice trembling. I told him then. About the silence, the wet rustling sound, the smell of blood. I told him about the bobbing, crimson light. He looked at me, his practical nature warring with the genuine fear in my eyes. He loved me, and he could see I was not just telling a story, I was terrified. He sighed again, a long, weary sound. "All right," he said, more to soothe me than because he believed. "All right, my love, I will gather the rattan. It will make you feel safer, and that's all that matters." He spent the rest of the afternoon in the dense jungle surrounding our village, hacking away at the viciously thorny rattan vines. He came back with his arms and hands scratched and bleeding, but with a huge pile of the spiky branches. As the sun began to bleed across the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, he crawled into the dark, damp space under our house. I could hear him grunting and swearing as he laid a thick, impenetrable barrier of thorns across the entire earthen floor beneath our room. That night, I felt a fragile sense of security. The herbal pouch from Yi-en was tucked into my sarong, and the thorny lattice was in place below. Khmer held me as we fell asleep, his arm a protective weight across me. I was wrong to feel safe. The silence fell again just as suddenly as before. One moment, the jungle was alive. The next, it was dead. My eyes snapped open in the darkness. I lay perfectly still, listening. There was no rustling from below. The thorns were doing their job. A wave of relief washed over me, so potent it almost made me weak. But then I heard a new sound. It came from outside the wall, a soft, wet scraping. Scratch, scrape. It was the sound of something dragging itself up the wooden stilts of our house. It was climbing. My blood ran cold. The smell of old blood seeped through the walls, stronger this time, more urgent. I squeezed Khmer's arm, my nails digging into his skin. He stirred, murmuring in his sleep. "Khmer," I hissed, my voice choked with terror. "Wake up, please wake up." He mumbled, still half asleep. "Soria, it's nothing." A loud thud against the wall next to my head cut him off. He was awake now, sitting bolt upright. We both stared at the thin bamboo wall, our breaths held tight in our chests. The crimson light appeared, not through the crack this time, but glowing through the woven bamboo itself, casting a sickening, bloody pallor over our small room. It was right outside, pressed against our home. It pulsed, faster now, a hungry, demanding rhythm. The scraping sound moved upwards, towards the window. Khmer grabbed the heavy machete he kept by our mat. "Stay here," he whispered, his voice tight with a fear I had never heard from him before. He crept towards the small, shuttered window. "No, don't," I cried, but it was too late. He threw the wooden shutter open, and for a split second, I saw it. I saw what was making the light. It was a woman's head, just a head floating in the night air. Its hair was long and matted, its eyes glowed with that same crimson light, and its mouth was open in a silent snarl, revealing blackened teeth. But that wasn't the most horrific part. Dangling beneath the head, glistening wetly in their own infernal light, was a full set of internal organs. A heart, lungs, and long, looping intestines dragged behind it like a grotesque, bloody tail. It was this tail, these entrails, that had been rustling in the mud and scraping against our house. It was an op, a ghost from Yi An's darkest stories. The creature shrieked when the light from inside hit it, a sound that was half human, half tearing fabric. It recoiled from the window, and Khmer, recovering from his shock, slammed the shutter closed and barred it. We huddled together in the middle of the room, shaking. The light outside bobbed and weaved, pulsing with rage. We could hear it circling the house, its wet organs slapping against the wooden stilts, the scraping sound moving from wall to wall. It was looking for a way in. It was testing our home, searching for any weakness. The smell was overpowering now, a physical presence in the room. I felt dizzy, sick. My baby was still, a heavy, cold weight inside me. The night stretched into an eternity. We didn't speak. There were no words for this kind of horror. We just listened to the sounds of the monster that was hunting us, praying for the dawn. When the first rays of sunlight finally broke through, the sounds stopped. The light vanished. The oppressive smell faded, leaving only the normal morning sense of dew and earth. We were alive. We had survived. But the fear did not leave with the darkness. It had settled deep into our home, into our bones. Khmer no longer spoke of civets or bad dreams. He had seen it. Now he believed. That day, the village was a hive of hushed, fearful whispers. Another family's chickens had been found dead, not torn apart, but drained, their bodies left like empty, feathered sacks. Everyone knew. No one said the name, but everyone knew the op had returned to Koh Rumdal. Khmer and I went to the local Wat, the temple, to seek a blessing from the head monk. He was an old man with a kind face and eyes that held a deep, unshakable peace. He listened to our story without surprise or disbelief. He chanted ancient Pali scriptures, his voice a low, comforting drone and tied blessed white strings around our wrists. He gave us a piece of cloth covered in hand-drawn yantras, protective symbols and prayers, to hang above our door. "This will help," he said calmly. "But the strongest protection comes from a pure heart and good karma. The op is a creature of immense suffering, a soul trapped by a dark curse, often passed from one generation to the next. It is drawn to negative emotions as much as it is drawn to blood. Do not give in to your fear. Be strong for your child." We returned home and hung the yantra cloth. Khmer reinforced the windows and plugged every crack in the walls he could find. We were creating a fortress against the night. But a fortress feels like a prison when you are trapped inside it. The days became a torment of waiting. I couldn't eat. Every shadow made me jump. I watched the other villagers, my neighbors, my friends, with a new, horrifying suspicion. The lore of the op says that during the day, it is a normal person. It lives among its victims, an ordinary woman who carries an unholy secret. At night, her spirit, her head and entrails, detaches from her sleeping body to go hunting. Who was she? Was it the woman who sold me fish at the market? The one with the sad, downcast eyes? Was it the young girl who always smiled but never spoke? Every person I saw was a potential monster. The community I had always felt safe in had become a gallery of suspects. The attacks continued, but they were different now. The op seemed to be testing us, toying with us. We would hear a single, wet slap against the outside wall in the dead of night. Sometimes a pebble would be thrown against our roof. The crimson light would appear at a distance. A baleful star hovering at the edge of the jungle, just watching, pulsing, waiting. It was driving me mad. The lack of sleep, the constant fear, was wearing me down. I felt weak, fragile. I knew this was what it wanted. It was waiting for me to be at my most vulnerable. It was waiting for the birth. 1 week before my child was due, the monsoon rains came in earnest. The sky turned a bruised purple and opened up, unleashing a torrent that turned the village paths into rivers of mud. The wind howled like a hungry spirit, and the rain hammered on our thatch roof in a deafening, relentless rhythm. It was the perfect storm, the perfect cover for a monster. Khmer and I sat inside, the single oil lamp casting flickering, dancing shadows on the walls. The noise of the storm was so loud we could hear nothing else. We couldn't know if it was out there. That, somehow, was even worse than hearing it. Suddenly, the lamp flickered violently and died, plunging us into absolute darkness. My breath hitched. Khmer fumbled for the matches, his hands shaking. "It's just the wind, Soria," he said, his voice strained. "The wind blew it out." But I knew better. In that same instant, a powerful, sweet, and cloying smell filled the room. Not the smell of blood this time. It was the scent of frangipani blossoms, the flowers often used in funeral rites. It was a deathly perfume. Then I heard it, a whisper right beside my ear. It was a woman's voice, thin and reedy, cutting through the roar of the storm. "Soon," it whispered. "He will be mine soon." I screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure terror. Khmer finally got the lamp lit, and the small flame pushed back the darkness. There was no one there. The room was empty except for us, but the scent of funeral flowers lingered, a promise of what was to come. From that moment on, I knew the protections were not enough. The blessed strings, the yantras, the thorns, they were all just gestures against a tide of ancient evil. The op could get to me. It could touch me. It was only a matter of when. The pains started 2 nights later. It was too soon, but my body, racked with fear and exhaustion, had given up. Khmer sent a boy running for Yi-En, who also served as the village midwife. She arrived with a small bag of herbs and cloths, her face a mask of grim determination. "It knows," she said, her voice low as she checked me. "The scent of birth is the sweetest perfume to its kind. It will come tonight. We must be ready." Khmer stood guard at the door with his machete. Yi-En lit incense and began to chant, her voice rising and falling in an ancient, hypnotic rhythm. The pains grew stronger, tearing through me, but they were nothing compared to the terror that gripped my heart. I wasn't just fighting to bring a child into the world. I was fighting to keep him from being stolen out of it. As the final stages of labor began, the storm outside my body was mirrored by the one outside our house. The wind rose to a shriek. The rain fell like stones, and through it all, the silence of the jungle returned. The predator was here. A scratching sound started at the door. Not loud, but persistent. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Khmer gripped his machete, his knuckles white. "Get away from this house, demon!" he roared, his voice cracking with desperation. The scratching stopped. For a moment, there was only the storm and Yi-En's chanting. Then, a horrific, splintering crack echoed from the floor beneath us. It was breaking through the thorns, smashing its way through the bamboo floor. A section of the floorboards near the far corner of the room buckled upwards and then shattered. And from the gaping, dark hole, the crimson light surged into the room. The op rose from the floor, its entrails slithering and coiling behind it. It was more horrifying up close than I could ever have imagined. Its skin was pale and stretched tight over its skull. Its eyes were burning coals of red light, and its mouth was stretched into a wide, impossibly hungry grin. The smell of rot and blood and grave blossoms filled the air, so thick I choked on it. Yi-En never stopped chanting. She threw a handful of coarse salt at the creature, and it shrieked as the crystals struck it, sizzling on its spectral form. It recoiled, but its burning eyes never left me. They were fixed on my belly. "Now, Soria, you must push now," Yi-En commanded. "Your son's life depends on it." With a final, agonized cry that was half pain and half terror, I gave one last, desperate push. The world went white, and then I heard it. The most beautiful sound in the world, the cry of a newborn baby. My son was born. The op let out a wail of pure, ravenous desire. It lunged forward. Khmer met its charge, swinging the machete. The blade passed through the creature's head as if it were smoke, with no effect. It swatted him aside with an unseen force, sending him crashing into the wall. It was upon me, floating just inches from my face, its cold, dead breath on my skin. I held my newborn son to my chest, turning to shield him with my body. I could see its face clearly now in the pulsating red glow. And my heart stopped. I knew that face. It was Yi So-won, a quiet, widowed woman who lived at the edge of the village. A woman I brought rice to every week. A woman everyone pitied for her loneliness and her sad, empty eyes. As our eyes met, a flicker of something, recognition, horror, shame, passed through its demonic gaze. For a single, fleeting moment, the crimson light in its eyes dimmed, and I saw the trapped, terrified soul of the woman within. And in that moment of hesitation, Yi enacted. She grabbed the oil lamp from the table and threw it. It shattered against the creature's dangling organs, and flaming oil splashed everywhere. The op erupted in a soundless, spiritual scream, its form engulfed in spectral flames that burned with no heat. The red light flickered and died. The creature dissolved, not into smoke, but into a shower of foul-smelling black ash that settled on the floor and then vanished. The room was plunged back into darkness, the only light coming from the small fires now burning on the floor. Khmer rushed to stomp them out. It was over. My baby was crying a healthy, furious sound. He was safe. He was alive. The next morning, the village learned that Yi So-won had been found dead in her hut. The neighbors said there had been no sound, no struggle. She had simply passed away in her sleep. Her body was buried quickly, and a quiet, fearful relief settled over Koh Rumdal. The nightmare was over. The curse had died with its host. Weeks turned into months. My son, whom we named Dara, meaning star, grew strong and healthy. He was a happy baby, always smiling. Khmer's laughter returned, and the fear that had been our constant companion slowly receded, becoming just a dark, terrible memory. We rebuilt our lives. The hole in our floor was repaired. The nights were once again filled with the gentle song of the jungle. But sometimes I would wake in the dead of night, my heart pounding, the phantom smell of blood in my nostrils. The memory of those glowing red eyes, of Yi So-won's face twisted in monstrous hunger, would never truly leave me. One evening, about a year later, I was rocking Dara to sleep. The moon was full and bright, casting a silver light into our home. He was fussy, fighting sleep, his little fists clenched. I hummed a soft lullaby, the same one my mother had hummed to me. He finally began to settle, his breathing evening out. His eyes, which were a perfect, deep brown just like his father's, began to droop. I smiled, my heart filled with a love so fierce it felt like it could burn down the world. I leaned in to kiss his soft forehead. As I did, his eyes fluttered open one last time. For a single, terrifying heartbeat, they were not brown. In the pale moonlight, deep within his pupils, a faint light appeared. It was a soft, crimson glow, pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm. A hunger that was ancient, familiar, and unnameable. It was only for a second. Then he blinked, and his eyes were his own again. He was just my son, my beautiful baby boy, now fast asleep in my arms. But I knew what I had seen. The monk's words came back to me, a cold whisper in the warm night. A curse, often passed from one generation to the next. The op had not been defeated that night. It had not died with Yi So-won. It had simply found a new home, a new vessel. It had latched onto the new life it so desperately craved. I sit here now in the quiet of my home, holding my sleeping son. My love for him is a fire in my chest, but beside it, a new and terrible ice is forming. The monster is not gone. It's not hunting us from the outside anymore. I brought it into my home. I hold it in my arms, and I have no idea what it will do when it fully awakens. So if you are ever in the quiet places of the world, and the night suddenly falls silent around you, do not be curious. Bar your doors. Say your prayers, because some hungers never die. They just wait for a new mouth to feed.